Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with a Q&A. This is the 7th of August 2017. We've I guess been a little remiss in doing this weekly, but we've been busy, and then with the update we were doing a lot more kind of content in general, so we let this fall a little bit by the wayside.
But we're back.
Yeah, and hopefully we're back on a more consistent basis.
With a vengeance.
It's hard to find time. Anyways, getting right into the first question, this comes from Winner200, and they say, is there ever going to be a money glitch in Injustice 2.15.1? You can tell this is not the freshest question, but we thought it was worth talking about. And they say, because it has now been 2 months, maybe if you guys do a video on how to find glitches, we, the viewers, can try and find out ourselves, as well as you guys, make it more likely that a glitch will be found. And then they sign it Winner200 again.
Yeah, what I like about the question and why it's worth coming back to is that it's way too complicated to actually write about it in a comment. And what has happened so far with glitches is, part of it is a theory, right? Sometimes it's taking advantage of things that are happening, and you can't get that without playing a lot. So that's already happening when you say the viewers can actually find it, because we're actually getting a lot of the glitches from people who watch our videos and comment.
That's basically pretty much always at this point how we find new stuff, right? It's very, very rarely something that we find fully ourselves. Usually someone mentions it, or at least mentions, oh, I'm noticing something weird, and then we look at it and we go, oh, there might be something weird we can do with it, right?
Right.
But it's almost never where we, from start to finish, we figure out something ourselves.
Right, and I think the value that we add is that we play it out a little bit, right? We test it a little bit. We try to do it consistently.
And also try to find the risks.
Yeah.
And the danger in a lot of cases.
And I guess we saw with 2.16 the problem was. So we've done this actually with the last couple of times. We have a glitch, we think we've got it, and we let it out into the wild, and then we get other comments about what's happening, right?
Yeah, so then with that new information we can kind of create a new and updated version.
Right, redux. That's an interesting word. So it's basically we're revisiting it because we've got something new to say, and I think it's there's not really a lot more that we can tell you about how we discover glitches, because no two are ever really quite the same.
I think it really boils down to pay a lot of attention. Anytime something happens that's not supposed to, you kind of got to figure out what triggered it, if there's any way to take advantage of it, or even if you can't figure out that part, just what triggered it, if you can trigger it again, right? What parts of what triggered it seem to be important, and then if you can give us that information, that's the closest we ever get to actually discovering a glitch, is refining it into something.
Right.
But really it's just especially anything that's different with the new update, for something that in a place where it shouldn't be, is really where the new glitches come from.
Yeah.
Some little quirk.
Yep. So it's interesting because the most recent glitch, right, is literally one of those quirks, and if anything, what I saw on the official boards was it came out as an issue where when people sold stuff, they weren't retaining their credits. They would just go back down to whatever their level was before they sold the stuff.
Yeah, so it was actually the opposite. It was a glitch that only hurt, pretty much. That
right.
People were triggering accidentally.
And not to minimize the help that we got from BM and Chronic to let us know that they were doing this the other way, where they were able to spend stuff and then bring the credit total back. But it's, two sides of the same coin, and it's the same answer for both of them.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important that a lot of times when you see something that might become a glitch, it doesn't necessarily start out that way. I know the kind of like getting multiple rewards glitch that was working for a while on iOS. I was seeing a version of that almost as soon as I started playing. One of the first things that ever happened was there was like a 30,000 credit pack pop-up.
Oh, right.
Just for like, it was something like 1 million players, and I triggered it like 3 or 4 times just by accident.
Right, that was how you got Black Adam for the first time.
Yeah, so I went into the menu and went back out, a menu and went back out, and it triggered again, and then I was like, oh, and I did it a couple times, and then it went away, and I was never able to do it again. But little stuff like that has, as far as I know, existed in the game since a few months after it came out, and it was just kind of seeing places where you could consistently use it, because that kind of like one-time thing, getting 100,000 credits was great, but it wasn't really like useful for any long-term thing once you've triggered it.
Yeah. So, I guess that really is the bottom line. Then, if you hear about something, you see something, let us know. Not all of it pans out. In fact, most of it doesn't. But it's really playing a lot and paying attention. I guess the hard part now is that with all the time that's getting sucked away by Injustice 2, it seems like there's a lot less interest in the better and the original Injustice 1.
Yeah, so you're probably less likely to actually be seeing new glitches, because if there's less people playing, there is less people able to find them in the first place.
Yeah.
But you also have some more dedicated people, so maybe some people who are more likely to actually spot them if they come up.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing too is that it matters a lot to have people who are not just paying attention but are really careful.
Yeah.
Because you see that in the comments too when there's a glitch, and so many people will say, is it patched, or it is patched, it's no longer working, because there's so many different ways that you could
mess it up.
Right.
Yeah. So there we go. Hope that answers your question. Again, we know it is a little bit late, but we thought it was still worth talking about, even though there is a new credit glitch, right?
Yeah. Clearly, and they haven't patched it, even though I think this is one of those ones that they could hot fix it and patch it from their side without actually updating it.
And I think part of the reason that it's worth talking about is actually because there's a new credit glitch, right? Because it shows that stuff is still coming out, and that we really just still need to be observant more than anything else. We need to be ready for it when it comes.
Well, it's funny too, right? Like, I mean, we're not immune to that kind of the speculation. When the first credit glitch came out, we thought that was going to break the game. Nobody would want to play anymore, and we'd have views for a little bit. And it was the opposite, actually. It shot the views on this channel through the roof. And then when they patched it, I thought, okay, so well,
the game's dead.
Well, not even so much, but our channel's dead, because that was the only reason people were watching our channel, right?
And I think the problem was, at least for the first time, we kind of misjudged where the fun of the game was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in earning stuff, it was in having stuff.
And, well, it was having options, right?
Yeah.
It was being able to play the game and mess around with different teams. And if it took you so long to grind it, to even get the resources to be able to try it. It meant a lot. Yeah, it would be it's almost impossible to have those options, right? Like, you'd actually have to know ahead of time what was going to be good before you go ahead and grind it. And then there's that disappointment when you actually do it and then realize, oh, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, so there you go, winner 200. Probably a lot more than you bargained for with your question. Probably a little late for your liking. But
if you're still around.
The next question comes from XPhantomX72. And they say, will I get banned for having a lot of extra character copies for selling? Example, Batman, 30 copies.
So that's... I guess it's a complicated question. I think the short answer to that is probably no.
Yeah, as far as we know, not right now.
And here's where the theory comes in, right? It's easy to check the power credit level. It's one value in the game. It's easy to pick a level that's reasonable to start suspending accounts at.
Yeah, even if it's insanely high, even if it's like a billion, right?
So it's not particularly bad on either the load time or the amount of time that the server takes up to check every account for power credit total. If, you know, whatever is greater than whatever, then this account's suspended. You're in violation of terms of service. The problem with the characters, there's 100 and something characters now. And in order to recognize that there's too many copies of it, they have to check that 100 and something values in that account every time they log in.
Or every time they would trigger a ban anyways.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That's actually more true.
Even if it's only like once a week or something.
So, I guess in practical terms, it probably hasn't happened yet, because we've run some accounts with well over 100 copies of a particular character. So, it's probably not a bad idea, because clearly we know that there's scrutiny of the power credit total.
Yeah.
And we know that people have been getting banned, I think, for 500,000 credits now. I mean, we've got a video that's more than a year old.
You mean 500 million, not 500,000.
Oh, right. I misspoke.
That would be
a few orders of magnitude off.
A lot of people would get banned.
Yeah, so it's we've got a video, Will Blank Get Me Banned. We filmed it more than a year ago. The ideas are all relevant. Back then, we were just demonstrating with the count that had 999,999,999 credits. that wasn't banned that was able to play online, but then we were able to trigger the ban by just going barely over 1 million.
Yeah, just getting those few extra credits.
Yeah. So there's still danger. It wouldn't be beyond the realm of possible, because I know that at one point they did trigger a ban with Red Sun Green Lantern. So they probably check the new characters that they add and show that if you have even one copy of them. So they have like maybe 3 or 4 locations. Right, and then they'll trigger it, but then they have to be careful about making sure that they
fix that. Yeah, turn it off.
Turn it off after that character becomes available.
Let's see, yeah, probably not, but maybe. It's always possible. And honestly, I think with the kind of slow trickle of content into Injustice, I can't imagine that they'd be changing a lot of stuff about that. They're probably at this point a little bit less interested in doing completely new stuff, especially when it's totally in the back end and nobody would see it.
Oh, and you know what? I forgot to finish the point I was making about the video, that the points are still relevant. You probably want to watch it just because even though the concrete elements might have changed, like the game's changed clearly a lot since more than a year ago, the theory is still the same. So a lot of times you can answer your own question about, well, will this get me banned? Some things will. Some things you can't be sure about, and you got to decide if it's worth the risk to you for, you know, hoarding some resources so that later on, as new characters come out, you can still keep on promoting them or buying stuff. And I think the most important thing actually is to, if you have something that you want to spend the credits on, spend it all now.
Yeah.
And then don't accumulate a bunch so that you can spend it tomorrow if there's something that's already available now.
Yeah. I do think that if you want to bank resources of value, characters are probably safer than credits, at least in the meantime. I would try to balance the two, though. I wouldn't have all one and none of the other.
To me, the magic number for credits is 30 million. Just because around that's a reasonable amount that somebody who's been playing a long time could accumulate playing legitimately without any cheating.
Yeah.
So it would be hard for them to use that by itself as a threshold for banning or for suspending accounts, because then you'd catch a lot of legitimate players. But you know, 100 million? Yeah, I don't think they'd be catching a lot of legitimate players. Even people who, like the whales, the people who spend a lot of money.
Probably don't have that much banked up because they wouldn't keep spending up to 100 million.
Right.
Or they wouldn't keep playing up to 100 million with nothing in mind to spend it on. Probably.
Right, it's, you know, you spend a few $100 on credits, it's usually because there's something that you want to get.
Yeah.
Not interested in locking up your money in
although I guess when
currency.
You have more and more challenge characters and online MP as the main stuff that's coming in, and Survivor, there's not as many places for veterans to spend their money.
Yeah, that's why 30 million I think is a nice number.
Yeah, so people will be actually banking more and more slowly, even if they're not using any glitches.
Yep.
I think. So there you go. Those are two kind of age-old questions that we still get, and two kind a little bit old, a little bit new answers to those questions. We got some maybe more experience under our belt for some of the stuff, like the will blank get me banned.
Yep.
But thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Komoda.